It was one of those scorching Texas afternoons where the heat waves dance off the asphalt like they're mocking you. And there I was, Sarah Jenkins, staring at the empty cash drawer in my little roadside bar, the Dusty Boot, with exactly $20 left to my name, the last scrap after scraping together rent for the trailer out back, where my kid, Mia, was napping through the worst of it. Bills were piling up like tumbleweeds in a storm, the kind that choke you slow, and that new megamall development down the road had sucked away all the truckers and locals who used to stop in for a cold beer or a burger. Hell, even the jukebox hadn't played in days because I couldn't afford the electric hike. But then this guy stumbles in, helmet under his arm, leather jacket scuffed like he'd wrestled a coyote. Eyes sunk deep from miles of nothing but wind and regret, and I knew right then, in that gut punch way, that he was hungrier than broke, and something in me just couldn't turn him away, not when my own Tom, God rest him, had built this place on the idea that no one leaves emptier than they came. I slid that 20 across the sticky counter without a second thought, or maybe with 1,000 thoughts crashing like thunder, but none loud enough to stop me, poured him a coffee black as midnight, slapped together a plate of eggs and toast from the scraps in the fridge, and watched him devour it like it was his first meal in days, his hands steadying with every bite, that tough shell cracking just enough to show the weariness underneath. He looked up, voice rough from the road. "You don't know me from Adam, lady, why?" And I just shrugged, wiping my hands on my apron. "You're starving. That's why, and around here. That's enough." Though inside my head was screaming about Mia's school shoes, the overdue property tax, and how Hank Reynolds, that slimy land baron who chaired the local homeowners association, had been circling my lot like a vulture, pressuring me to sell cheap so he could bulldoze it for his shiny new strip mall. All because years back Tom had outbid him on this patch of dirt, and Hank never forgot a grudge, turning it into this petty power play where he'd whisper to the council about blight and safety codes to force me out. The guy called himself Jake, but folks knew him as Blackjack. Nodded slow, like he'd filed that away deep, and as he straddled his bike outside, engine growling to life, he tossed over his shoulder, "This ain't forgotten, Sarah, it'll come back bigger." And I laughed it off, locking up with that hollow ache, thinking kindness was a fool's game when survival's on the line. But damn if his eyes didn't haunt me that night, mixing with memories of Tom fixing the leaky roof, dreaming this bar could be a haven for the lost souls rolling through these endless plains. Morning hit like a hangover, the sun blasting through the blinds, and I was back behind the bar, flipping through eviction notices Hank had pushed through his cronies at the HOA. You see, he wasn't just after land. It was personal, ever since Tom called him out at a town meeting for rigging bids, exposing how Hank manipulated fees to squeeze out small folks like us, turning the community against anyone who didn't bow, spreading rumors that my bar was a nuisance, drawing riffraff, all to hide his greed for expanding his empire. And now with Tom gone from cancer 2 years back, I was the easy target, fighting alone while Mia asked why Mommy looked so tired. I busied myself polishing glasses that didn't need it, ignoring the growl in my own stomach, when that familiar rumble started faint on the horizon. One bike at first, Blackjack's, pulling up with dust swirling like a warning, and he pushed through the door, helmet thunking on the counter, meeting my glare with that steady gaze. "Told you I'd be back," he said, and I snapped, arms crossed tight. "Yeah? Well, that 20 was my last. Got a kid upstairs, bills choking me, and you waltzing like it's nothing?" But he didn't flinch, just leaned in, voice low and firm. "You didn't hesitate. Sarah saw a man broken and fixed him up. That's rare out here, and it matters more than you know." And before I could bite back, the ground shook with engines, headlights flooding the lot like a siege, one bike turning to 3, then 10, then 50. Chrome beasts lining up row after row, their riders dismounting. With boots heavy as judgment, leather vests patched with the snarling wolf of the Thunder Wolves, a biker crew I'd heard whispers about, tough as nails, loyal to a fault, running protection for their own across these badlands. I stepped to the window, heart slamming. "What the hell is this, Jake? Who are you really?" And he peeled off his jacket, revealing the vice president's patch. "Not just some drifter, these are my brothers. And last night you treated one of us like family without knowing it. Now we're here to return the favor." The door swung wide, men pouring in, grizzled vets with beards like steel wool, young guns with eyes still sharp filling the booths, the air thick with gasoline and gratitude, and one by one, they started spilling stories that hit me like freight trains. An older guy with a limp recalling how, for winters back, his ride iced over 10 miles out, and I'd bundled him in blankets, called a tow on my dime, no questions. Another, voice cracking, about rushing to his sister's bedside after a crash. How I'd calmed him with directions and a packed lunch, saying, "Breathe, brother, she'll need you steady." And it saved him from wrecking himself. Even a kid barely 20, hands trembling as he confessed, "Rolled in here suicidal 3 years ago. Broke and done, you fed me. Said, lost ain't forever if you keep moving." And I held on because of that. The room went quiet then, like the plains before a twister, and I covered my mouth, tears blurring it all, realizing this bar wasn't just failing walls to me to them. It was salvation, a light Tom had sparked that I'd kept flickering without knowing how far it reached. And Jake broke the hush. "You thought you were alone, but you've been pulling us from the edge for years. Tonight, we pull you back." They didn't stop at words, oh no. It escalated like a storm building. Jake pulling out his phone, pacing the lot under the fading sun, voice rising in fragments about chapters from Dallas to El Paso, calling in favors like a general rallying troops. And soon more engines thundered in, trucks and vans from across state lines, headlights turning the night into day as the lot overflowed with wolves in leather, transforming my quiet defeat into a fortress. A big fella from Austin, beard streaked silver, clapped Jake on the back and fixed me with eyes like flint. "So you're the one who feeds the pack when we're starving, had to ride out myself." And I stammered, "It was just $20, nothing special." But he shook his head. "Ain't nothing about trust like that." And then the floodgates opened. Envelopes thick with cash slapping the counter, rolls of bills from pockets deep, one after another declaring, "For the haven that never turned us away," piling up till it dwarfed my debts, and the kid from before added a small pouch last, whispering, "You gave me everything, now take this." Cheers erupted, boots stomping, engines roaring outside like a beast awakened, and Jake zipped it all into a bag, shoving it my way. "Your debts? Cleared, but that's the start. We've got plans." He unrolled blueprints. Right there my bar expanded into Jenkins' Oasis, with extra booths, a biker lounge, repair bays, the works, official stop for every wolf on these roads. Business guaranteed, protection eternal. And the crew nodded fierce, vowing this ground sacred, no HOA snake or land grabber touching it, because to them, I'd earned it by seeing the man beneath the patch, not the outlaw myth Hank and his ilk spread to justify their greed. Dawn cracked hot and hostile, red-blue lights flashing up the highway like bad omens, 2 sheriff cars, and Hank's sleek black SUV rolling in slow, his smug face twisting as he spotted the sea of bikes, the wall of leather blocking his path. The sheriff stepped out first, hat tipped back, voice shaky. "Morning, folks, got reports of a gathering. This property's in foreclosure, time to disperse." But Jake strode forward, receipts fanned like a winning hand. "Not any more 80 grand cash, settled in full. Check the wire." And Hank slithered out, clutching his briefcase like a shield, lips curling in that oily sneer. "Even if paid, there are fees. Violations, this eyesore's coming down for progress. Sarah, you should have sold when I offered fair." His voice dripping me on my eyes gleaming with that old grudge, the power trip of crushing what Tom built just to prove he could. But big text from Houston loomed over him, voice booming like thunder. "Try it. Reynolds bleed her more, and you answer to us. This ain't your playground anymore." And the sheriff, sweating now, raised hands quick. "Easy, no trouble if it's paid. It's hers," forcing Hank to choke out, pale as a ghost. "Fine. She keeps it," before slinking back to his ride. Tires screeching retreat as cheers exploded, engines revving triumph like victory horns. The wolves formed up then, 2 lines stretching from my door to the road's edge, a corridor of respect, and Big Tex offered his arm. "Walk it, Sarah, see what you built." So I did, stepping through with Mia peeking wide-eyed, hands brushing shoulders, whispers of beacon keeper, and saved us all, till I reached Jake at the end, who grinned faint. $20 got you 50, brothers, family now." They circled the bar one last time, engines thundering a salute that shook the earth, a promise etched in chrome and loyalty. And as they rode off into the haze, I stood with Mia, whispering, "The light stays on. Kiddo, your dad knew it would." Feeling whole for the first time since Tom left, not just surviving, but anchored in something unbreakable. But here's the thing that sticks with me. Makes me wonder late at night, was it right to lean on a crew like the Wolves, folks the town calls outlaws, to fend off a suit like Hank? Or does that just swap one power play for another, blurring lines between protection and intimidation in these tight-knit spots where grudges fester and communities fracture? What do you think? Would you slide that last 20 to a stranger, betting on kindness in a world that chews it up, or play it safe when the wolves are at the door? Drop your take in the comments. Share if a random act ever boomeranged back to save you. Or if you've seen HOA bullies get their comeuppance. Let's hear it. Because stories like this, they're what keep the conversation roaring.